Hello friends, this is CA Srinivasan Anand. I'll be taking you through the measures announced by the Finance Minister in today's budget speech for micro, small and medium enterprises and also startups. Now, before we proceed further, the two sectors are not mutually exclusive. You can satisfy an enterprise which satisfies the criteria stipulated under the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development Act 2006, MSMED Act 2006, and the notification issued by DPIIT dated 127E dated 19/2/2019. If both criteria are satisfied, then it will qualify as an MSME unit also and a startup also, and it will be able to get the best of both worlds. That possibility is there. So, first of all, the micro, small and medium enterprises. Many of these MSME units may have entered into contracts with government or government departments. They may have submitted bid or performance security. And due to COVID, they would have failed to honor their obligations to the government or government department, resulting in forfeiture of the bid or performance security furnished by them. Now, this will hurt the liquidity in a very big way when the economy is now recovering and the units will be taking off, the customer demand will revive after COVID. So in the coming financial year, if they have to be able to cash in, they need to address the liquidity issue arising out of such forfeiture of deposits. So the budget announces relief from forfeiture, that is returning back 95% of the amount forfeited. Then secondly, there is a lot of litigation that the MSME may have or even MSME or even non-MSME unit may have with government or government undertakings. This is like Vivad se Vishwas kind of thing. For contractual disputes, we have seen this we say we for tax disputes. Now this is we say we for contractual disputes, and this may be between an MSME or non-MSME with the government department or government undertaking. Entity Digital Locker, Skill India Digital Platform, revamping of credit guarantee for MSMEs, increase in proposed in turnover limits for availing presumptive taxation under sections 44AD and 44ADA of Income Tax Act 1961, and to address the payment problem again, section 43B of the Act is proposed to be amended to disallow payment payment if not made, to allow payment to disallow payment on accrual basis. Payment will be allowed only if made, and this is an attempt to improve the liquidity for MSME units. And appointment of JCIT appeals so that the pendency, there is huge pendency before the CIT appeals. So small disputes that may involve these MSMEs can be transferred to the JCIT appeals, and they may be speedily disposed. So in every which way, an attempt has been made to address the liquidity problem and simplicity and ease of doing business for these MSME entities. For DPIIT registered startups, the existing provision of section 80 IAC 100% tax holiday is applicable only if the unit is incorporated on or after April 1, 2016, but on or before April 1, 2023. Now, due to COVID, we know that many units may not have been able to start because there is no revival of customer demand. So that is why they have extended the date of incorporation, because many entrepreneurs may have put off the startup founders may have put off their plans to get their startups underway. So as a result, the date has been extended to avail the tax holiday. Date of incorporation has been extended from April 1, 2023 to April 1, 2024. Now, hitherto under section 79, the benefit of carried forward of losses on change of shareholding of startups was allowed for 7 years. Now the problem is that the DPIIT notification says that a startup entity registered with DPIIT will be considered a startup for 10 years from the date of incorporation. Even section 80 IAC tax holiday section also adopts that criteria. So to align this, carry forward loss, benefit of carry forward of losses is available only for 7 years. So to align it with 80 IAC and the DPIIT notification, the benefit period has been increased. Period for which carried forward of losses can be done has been increased from 7 years to 10 years. And this amendment in section 79 takes effect retrospectively from assessment year 2023 to 24. Then this angel tax, their startups have received a whammy also in this budget. The angel tax, the so notorious angel tax, was so far applicable only when shares were issued to residents. It was hitherto inapplicable to non-residents. Section 56(2) clause 7b is being amended to remove the words being a resident. So it will apply if shares are issued to any person. So startups must obviously take care to ensure that share issues to non-residents, non-resident investors, whatever share issues, obligations they have and fundraising they want to do, they should complete it latest by 31st of March 2023, because this this amendment kicks in from assessment year 2024-25. Now coming to the MSME sector, the criteria adopted to classify a unit as a micro or small or medium enterprise under the MSMED Act 2006 is now a composite criteria using net investment in plant and machinery and net turnover. Both criteria, dual criteria. This dual criteria has come into existence from 1st of July 2020. So micro enterprise is any enterprise whose net investment in plant and machinery or equipment does not exceed rupees 1 crore and net turnover does not exceed rupees 5 crores. Small enterprise, the net investment does not exceed 10 crores and net turnover does not exceed 50 crores. Medium enterprise, net investment does not exceed 50 crores and net turnover does not exceed 250 crores. In addition to meeting the above criteria, it is essential that enterprise should have submitted the memorandum to under the MSMED Act, popularly known as registration, but actually it is filing of memorandum. Earlier we had this EM Part 2, Entrepreneurs Memorandum Part 2 and Udyog Aadhar Memorandum before 1/7/2020. And from 1/7/2020 onwards, under this revised criteria, we have what is known as Udyam registration, e-filing on the Udyam portal. So it is mandatory that a company, for all the benefits which are notified under the MSMED Act, it is essential that the MSME unit be registered either under Udyam or under EM Part 2 or under UAM. But it is to be noted that EM2 and UAM validity expired on 30th June 2022, and from 1/7/2022 only Udyam registration is the registration required. So enterprises should have taken care to migrate to the Udyam registration. Existing enterprises who had EM2 or UAM, if they have not migrated to the new Udyam registration by 1/7/2022, they would be in problem for the contracts that they enter into up to that date. From that date till the date they actually submit Udyam. So it's essential that MSME units who are not registered under Udyam, they should get themselves registered to avail the benefits. Now let us take the first thing, relief for MSMEs from forfeiture of bid or performance security. As mentioned, in case of failure by MSMEs to execute contract during the COVID period, 95% of the forfeited amount relating to bid or performance security will be returned to them by government and government undertakings. So, two things matter here. One is, what is the definition of during COVID period? And second important thing is, what happens where existing MSME units as on 30th June 2020 did not migrate from EM2 or UAM to Udyam registration by 1st of July, by 30th of June 2022. What happens to them in respect of contracts they may have executed? After this question would arise. And what about MSME units which have not registered themselves at all during the COVID period? I mean, these things have to be clarified. Hopefully, they will be clarified in the notification. As of what date the unit should have been registered under the MSME Act to avail this benefit of return of forfeited amount, 95% of forfeited amount. To settle contractual disputes of government and government undertakings where an arbitral award is under challenge in a court, voluntary settlement scheme with standardized terms will be issued. This will be done by offering graded settlement terms depending on pendency of level of the dispute. Now, this scheme will apply to MSME as well as non-MSME units. Then entity digital locker will be set up for use of MSMEs, large business and charitable trusts. So, this will ensure that they are able to share their documents online with banks and other regulators, etc. Skill India digital platform, digital ecosystem for skilling will be further expanded with launch of a unified Skill India digital platform for enabling demand-based formal skilling, linking of employers including MSMEs, facilitating access to entrepreneurship scheme. Now comes the credit guarantee scheme for MSMEs. Under this credit guarantee scheme, banks fund the MSMEs, and this was a very valuable source of funding during the COVID. So, in 2022 budget speech, the finance minister had mentioned about revamping of the credit guarantee scheme. The revamped scheme will take effect from 1st April 2023 by infusion of rupees 9,000 crore in the corpus. And this will enable additional credit expansion of 2 lakh crores, guaranteed credit of 2 lakh crores, and the cost of credit will be reduced by 1%. Then comes the issue of the presumptive taxation scheme, and these are usually availed by micro units. These are applicable to micro units because turnover limit was hitherto up to 2 crores for businesses and 50 lakhs for professionals. 2 crores for business turnover limit was under 44 AD. Now, there was a demand from the industry that these limits should be enhanced for ease of doing business. So, the budget proposes to enhance the limit from 2 crores to 3 crores turnover limit for the businesses, and from 50 lakhs to 75 lakhs for professionals, subject to the caveat that at least 95% will be of the receipts will be in cashless form. And now we come to the other thing of 43B amendment. Now let us first take up this MSME, this presumptive taxation scheme for businesses and professions. Now, this presumptive taxation scheme for businesses and professions, the proviso has been added. 2 provisos have been added to section 44 AD as well as section 44 ADA. They are worded very similarly, and these come into effect from assessment year 2024-25. Provided that where the amount or aggregate of the amounts received during the previous year in cash does not exceed 5% of the total turnover or gross receipts of such previous year, this subclause shall have effect as if the words 2 crore rupees, the words 3 crore rupees had been substituted. So, you have to do 95% of the receipts should be in cashless form, and only maximum 5% of the receipts, at least 95% should be in cashless mode, and 5% of the receipts maximum can be in the form of cash. Now, the definition of cashless and cash has been given in the other second proviso, provided that further that for the purposes of the first proviso, receipt of the amount or aggregate of amounts by a check drawn on a bank by a bank draft which is not account payee shall be deemed to be received in cash. So, if you receive the payment by a check or a bank draft which is not crossed account payee, then it will be treated as if the receipt is in cash. So, this particular provisos which are added to 44 AD, and similarly in 44 ADA, the similar proviso is there saying that 75 lakhs will be applicable if at least if not more than 5% of the receipts are in cash, and it has defined cash in a similar manner, saying that it will cover even check or bank draft which is not crossed account payee. Now, there is one thing which must be understood, that this first proviso which they have inserted in both 44 AD and 44 ADA, this first proviso is worded a bit differently from the proviso to clause A of section 44 AB. In clause A of section 44 AB, the tax audit exemption is there if 95% aggregate of all amounts received, including amount received for sales, turnover or gross receipts, shall not exceed 5% of the said amount. So, this is worded very differently from that. There all receipts are to be considered, including sales, turnover and gross receipts, and this shall not exceed 95% all amounts received. 5% of the in cash shall not exceed 5% of this thing. Now, numerator and denominator are consistent there, because in numerator also you are taking all amounts received, including amounts received in sales, turnover or gross receipts, and in denominator also you are taking the same. So, here the same consistency has to be applied. Now, we come to the most important amendment which helps the MSME units. More specifically the micro and small units. It doesn't apply to the medium enterprises. It applies to micro and small enterprises. And that is the amendment to section 43B. Hitherto, the speedy payment, prompt payment issue was dealt with under the MSME Act by sections 15, MSMED Act under sections 15, 22 and 23 of the MSMED Act. And the basic thing was that if there is an agreement with the micro or small enterprise, now the micro and small enterprise has to be registered by submitting the information memorandum. Either Udyam, he must be validly registered. The registration must be, Supreme Court has held in Silpi Industries case that the registration should be valid as of date of making the supply of goods or services. Otherwise, he cannot avail of the protection of quick payment under the MSMED Act. Now, what does section 15 say? Section 15 of MSMED Act says that where there is a written agreement between the buyer and the micro or small enterprise, the micro and small enterprise should be a registered micro or small enterprise with Udyam registration, and up to 36/2022 either EM2 or UAM or Udyam, and after 1/7/2022 for whatever contracts you enter, only Udyam registration should be there. Where any supplier supplies any goods or renders any services to any buyer, the buyer shall make the payment therefore on or before the date agreed upon between him and the supplier in writing. Now, this section is very important because this section is referred to in the amendment made to section 43B in clause H. Any sum payable by the assessee to a micro or small enterprises beyond the time limit specified in section 15 of the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development Act 2006. This amount will be disallowed. Now, hitherto, the disallowance was limited. If payment was not made within the time frame given under section 15, the disallowance was limited to the interest, penal interest that was payable. Section 23 of the MSMED Act provided for that disallowance. And there was no provision to disallow the main amount for the supply of goods, the amount of invoice for supply of goods. There was no provision to disallow it in the hands of the buyer. So now the thing is, the provision is worded as any sum payable by the assessee to a micro or small enterprise beyond the time limit specified in section 15 of the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development Act 2006. It is worded in a very peculiar way which causes confusion. Fortunately, the explanatory memorandum is very clear. It makes the intention of the provision very clear, that the payment, the amounts payable to micro and small enterprises suppliers will be allowed strictly on payment basis, and if you have to claim them on accrual basis. Now this problem will arise for amounts outstanding as of 31st March, closing of the year. Now if you want to claim these outstandings on the basis of accrual basis, then the payment has to be made within the time limit specified by section 15 of the MSMED Act. You will not get time up to the ITR due date. So the implication seems to be that if you fail to pay by the due date under section 15 of the MSMED Act, then and you pay thereafter, after that due date, then the deduction will be allowed for you on payment basis in the next financial year. That is what seems to be the implication. And this important thing is, here the micro or small, this provision applies to amounts outstanding to micro and small enterprises only, not to medium enterprises. And the micro and small enterprises should have a registration as on date of supply. It has been held by Supreme Court in Silpi Industries. There is no retrospectivity or retroactivity to the registration under the MSMED Act. It will apply only prospectively. So micro and small enterprises should take care that before they make any supply of a significant amount to a large enterprise, they should first file the Udyam memorandum, Udyam registration, if they have not already done, on the Udyam portal, and then they should make the supply the next day. Otherwise, if you make it after making the supply, then the registration does not operate retrospectively, and that is the problem here. So MSME enterprises should take note of this provision, and they should ensure that they file. But there are some practical difficulties also arising here. There are fears that the larger industries may stop dealing with MSME suppliers because of these hassles of disallowance. And now the income tax authorities are not precluded from cross-verifying with the MSMED portal. They can always call for the PAN numbers of the or Aadhaar numbers of the MSME of the suppliers on a random basis, and they can verify a few with the portal and check whether any of these are relating to MSMED suppliers. So that could cause a problem here now. So just merely saying that we have not come across any dues of MSME outstanding on this date for more than 45 days in the annual accounts will not suffice. It is better that every supplier be told to give his given a query whether he is an MSME supplier. If so, he should give his registration. Now this actually these hassles may cause the buyers, big buyers, to shift from the small units. But all said and done, the buying and selling process is not an act of charity. The bigger unit buys from the smaller unit only because it fulfills the essential criteria, and it happens to be the best possible supplier, or in many cases. And MSMEs will have to ensure that they ramp up their quality and delivery process. For DPIIT registered startups, the following we mentioned that there is extension of date for incorporation of startup to avail the 100% tax holiday under section 80 AC from 1st April 2023 to 1st April 2024. Then the period for which the benefit carry forward will be available has been increased from 7 years to 10 years. This amendment, however, is retrospective, applicable from AY 23-24. Then angel tax will under section 56(2)(7)(b) will apply even to shares issued to non-residents with effect from AY 2024-25. So basically, startup founders who wanted to float a startup, but their plans received a setback due to the COVID and the recovery aspect of the economy, the timing of that. So wherever this kind of problem is there, they should ensure that they incorporate the unit at the earliest by 1st April, much before 1st April 2024. And as far as the fundraising is concerned, they should complete, if they are raising funds from non-resident, they should complete all the issue of shares and all the exercise by 31st March 2023, so that the angel tax problem will not apply to them. And this probably this amendment has come because in raw pressery, the tribunal gave a very favorable judgment to the startup. These people, they asked for all kinds of details, from the confidential data like the income tax returns and whatnot of the big startup the big startup funders who are non-resident and based in Singapore. They were reputed international financiers. Still, the AO wanted to get those details, and these startup entity pleaded that how can we are small fries, how can we ask them to part with such confidential data which you are asking? We have got basic things like annual accounts, we have got basic things like PAN number, and their TRC certificate is there. This kind of things are there. So you should, if you feel like you want to do further inquiry, you are welcome to issue summons to them through proper channels. And the CBDT has specified a proper channel for that. And you can do the inquiry with them through the proper channel. But as far as we are concerned, we are helpless. We cannot ask them to give these things, and they will not give us these details. This was their plea. So the tribunal gave a very favorable judgment to the startup, saying, yes, indeed, the non-resident investors are very reputed people, and obviously they are big fries. They would not part with confidential data to the startups whom they finance, and the basic details they have given, and they have given all the details, and they have also requested you to verify through proper channels if you want to do any more verification, and this request should have been acceded. And the AO and CITA were in fault for not doing the necessary verification through summons or through proper channels, despite the request by the startup assessee. So, and the angel tax was struck down. And even 68 additions, section 68 additions were struck down because the tribunal took a very favorable and practical view, and probably the department has hit back for that with this amendment, where they have now made it applicable even to the non-resident financiers. Now, basically, it would have been much better if they had incorporated the essence of the tribunal's judgment in a circular. Unfortunately, that was not done, and they have made it applicable even to non-resident financing. But all said and done, there seems to be no justifiable reason why only the shares issued at overvaluation to residents, the premium received should be taxed. Excessive consideration should be taxed only when shares are issued to residents and not to non-residents. So that said, but this seems to be it seems to be a follow-up of that decision in raw pressery case, where the assessee got, the startup assessee got a favorable judgment in his favor. Thank you, friends. We will get more clarity on this when the notifications are issued and when the Finance Act gets passed, and that time we can take this up in even greater detail. Thank you very much.